So the talk is on advancing sustainability, and I listened to a lot of the panel discussions. I've changed this to an AI discussion. I'm a bit of an AI romantic, and I do think it's one of those technologies that definitely can define how we drive sustainability across the country. I was looking at some of the solutions around digital twins for municipalities to build reticulation systems that are predictive in how they break down, and you save 40% of the water. But I won't touch on that. I just want to talk to 4 things that we're doing as an organization. We've got some clear sustainability goals that we're trying to drive as an organization. There's a 2050 goal that we've set ourselves and a 2030 goal. And this is just to, start getting organizations to think about how they utilize technology and who some of their suppliers are. So some of our climate actions for net zero by 2050 is to hit 3 of the various greenhouse emission gases. And we're well on our way to actually achieve that by that date with a few years to spare. Then from a circular economy perspective, our 2030 goals is three key components. 1, every ton of product that we generate, we'll take 1, recycle, and reuse it. And we'll beat that target probably with 2 years to spare. Another one that we're driving very intensely in all our product sets, so it doesn't matter if it's in the data center or the notebook or laptop that you utilize on a day-to-day basis, is 50% of the material that we use will be in a recyclable fashion in some shape, form, or manner. We actually have a range of notebooks today that's 100% recyclable and uses 100% of recyclable material already. And then the other one is packaging, which is a fairly simple one to meet. And as we speak today, 96.4% of all our packaging is recyclable or recycled. And a big caveat to that is that probably about 10 to 15% of the packaging that we use globally is also from ocean plastics. And we're one of the founding organizations around the ocean plastics drive at a global level. I think the other key one is, a lot of organizations understand that this is a key dynamic in their business. 81% of organizations believe that this is an imperative they have to drive. One of my closing arguments is we talk a lot about this, but do we do a lot about it? And, I want to challenge organizations in South Africa that we need to start driving regulatory compliance. We need to look at how we source and which organizations we source from, and we need to hold people to account. And I'll use something as simple as your notebook. Easy to buy, we typically buy on price, and we don't look at the sustainable life cycle. Nobody ever worries about what happens to the notebook, and we think if we donate it to a school, we've solved our problem. We haven't, because what happens when that notebook has ended its useful life, and it ends up in a rubbish dump. It contaminates the soil, and it becomes something that is a hindrance rather than a benefit to the organization that you delivered that to. Some of the goals that we want to drive is 1, and I wish I'd added a few more things around AI, very passionate about the subject, is how do you effectively get sustainable AI into your business? It is going to be one of the biggest power consumption items globally. I think if you read the news, a lot of US companies are even looking to create nuclear power stations for the power consumption that is required. But on the flip side of it is if you use the right type of data, and data will be the key component in most organizations moving forward, as well as the right use case, you can get a lot of value out of every single facet of your business. And when we talk to sustainability, if you're using data insights and analytics to define where you're going, there's quite a lot of benefit that you can get out of that. And Dell's at the forefront of a lot of that. Reduce your emissions and consumption. I'll talk to some of the product sets that we've driven and how we're driving a lot of the efficiencies into our product sets. But that's a key component when you, in your procurement processes, when you're looking at how you're designing your data centers. Are we doing it with an end goal in mind in terms of reducing heating, cooling, and sustainability features in those environments? And then accelerate the circular economy. I mentioned the notebook as a key example. As the procurer or the person using the notebook, you are the person that decides how it ends up. and are you recycling it? And one of the things that we're driving with ERA today, which I'll talk about now, is recycling a lot of the e-waste that is generally building up in homes. If I were to ask anybody in the room here, how many chargers do you have in boxes? I think we'd be all too embarrassed to mention how many chargers and battery packs and things we have lying around underutilized. But we're trying to work with ERA. So we're one of the founding members of ERA about 20 plus years ago. And we're trying to work with them to drive an e-waste bin facility across the country. So we've just started the initiative with them. Part of that is also to reach out to corporate South Africa and to challenge you to put these e-waste bins in your organizations. ERA will come and collect the e-waste. So there's no cost to you. The only thing you've got to do is get the bin into your organization. You can reach out to Dell, and we can put you in touch with them. But wouldn't that be great if we had an e-waste bin in every single large corporate in South Africa where you can dump your electronic waste? And it's a small start, but it's a start in how we drive a sustainable mindset, in how we drive e-waste across the board. And then the other thing we've done is we've worked with the Springbok rugby team to effectively get a whole campaign around juniors to drive the whole e-waste message. Kill that. But that just gives you an idea. And I mean, these are iconic sports stars, and it was quite nice that they actually wear a green jersey as well, driving that whole green message. But these are some of the things that we're doing as an organization. And as you can see, since 2013, we've reduced in our server and data center infrastructure our power consumption by 76%. So the one thing I can tell the Minister of Electricity, you can't blame us for load shedding. But this is a key component of one of the big cost drivers in businesses is energy consumption, and it's going to get worse with the advent of how we use AI. And AI is not just going to be something that sits in the cloud. This is going to happen at an on-prem level as well, where you're going to have this in your data center. And the reason I say that is because of the proximity to data. And the data that we're talking about today is not data that would sit in the cloud or data that we would typically do, have in large, databases. But it's data that you generate at the edge. So let's say a shopping center, consumers, and areas like that. And that'll be probably 98% of all the data that will be utilized. And you want to be able to make instantaneous decisions on the fly as that is happening. And that is going to drive GPUs, that's going to drive large language model, digital twins, etc. And the power of this is just going to accelerate. And very key that you look at this as a key component of how you design and build your future infrastructure. And then just to talk around some of the things we're doing from a design perspective. So the whole advent of Dell is to try and design this most perfect sustainable laptop. And in essence, basically what we're doing is we're looking at the full design implementation of what we're doing. So one of the things is a USB port. Now, typically, if you had to take a USB port out, you'd have to take out the whole motherboard, throw it away, or recycle it. And what we've done, just at a small level, is we've just redesigned our machines that we just have to take out the USB port. It's that big. And it sounds silly, but if in South Africa, we're probably consuming about 2.5 million notebooks a year as a country. Now, you move that out globally, and let's say you've got about a 2 or 3% failure rate. That's a lot of little USB ports. The other thing we're looking at is how do we design a modular set of product sets? And that doesn't just talk to our notebooks, but making sure that you only recycle or replace the part that is broken. And just by redesigning a lot of what we're doing as an organization, we're reducing e-waste, we're reducing, the types of materials we're using, and at the same time, we're also reducing your cost of ownership on these specific products. And again, I'll come to my next component, is I want all of you the captains and the custodians of sustainability in your organizations. And I want you to start propagating this message in how do we, consume product sets in a much more sustainable way. As I said in the beginning of my conversation, we talk a lot, we don't do a lot. And we need to start challenging ourselves at every facet of life. And nobody would have thought that an IT company would come talk about sustainability. But it's important to understand how you consume things, how do you recycle things. And it's important that when we make these purchasing decisions, that we put that pressure on our organizations. I think what I see too many times is great board reports, and we hit all our green metrics. But when it comes down, nuts and bolts, we probably miss so many. So knowledge is power. Know what you're doing, know what you're buying. Utilize AI. I think that's a key component of what we're doing in terms of your utilization. E-waste. I've actually got his name up there, Daniel Collett, Dell.com. Let's get a little recycling bin into your organization. Let's start in a small way to reduce charges, battery packs, old irons, deep fryers. We don't care what electronic waste it is. Just chuck it in the bin. Ariel come pick it up, and they've got a circular economy that they've built around this where they can recycle this, even down to a metals level and plastics level. So it is sustainable, and they're also very happy to give you a certificate that you can go put in that wonderful board report that you've got. And then prioritize your tech refreshes. Think about the cost of ownership of some of the products that you've got. It's great to squeeze the lemon juice or the juice out of the lemon until there's nothing left. But product technology is ramping up at notes. Go look at the cost of ownership. Go and look at the power, the heating, the cooling, and look at the total cost of ownership of some of the products that you're driving. And that's basically what we're trying to do as an organization. Would have loved to have spoken to you more about AI and how I think that can change the world. I'm an AI romantic. But thank you for your time, and I think that's lunch. Thank you.